Good afternoon. Welcome to the second session of the TWU Bold Leadership Series. We have two amazing speakers for you tonight, and tonight's session is brought to you by the College of Business at Texas Women's University and the J. Nelson Institute for Women's Leadership at Texas Women's University. I have two amazing speakers for our topic, which is leadership in a virtual world. And all of us have experience in the virtual world, especially since we're approaching 2 years in a global pandemic. Some of you had experience before that pandemic, but some of you have had to immerse yourselves and continue to bloom where you're planted and grow in this virtual environment. And tonight, our speakers are going to be talking to you about how to grow even more and expand even more in this virtual environment. I'll introduce myself. I am Dewana Horn. I'm Associate Dean in the College of Business and also Associate Professor of Management. This is my 11th year serving at Texas Women's University, where I do teaching, research, and service, all to advance women into leadership positions. And at Texas Women's University, we also have a focus on healthcare management. So we also like to see our students advance into healthcare positions. If you don't know much about Texas Women's University College of Business, we have amazing undergraduate and graduate programs. You can pursue an undergraduate degree in business administration in a number of fields, including accounting, finance, marketing, healthcare administration, and management. And if you are looking for a fantastic Ph.D., a fantastic MBA program where you can finish in less than 2 years, most of our students finish in 12 to 18 months, then check out our MBA program where we have a number of areas of emphasis. We also have an info session coming up. If you check out our website, which is running across the screen, you'll see more information about our info sessions. So without delay, I'll go ahead and introduce the speakers that we have for tonight. First, we have Ms. Ashley Brown, affectionately known as Ashley Empowers. Ashley is a host, entrepreneur, and motherhood and lifestyle content creator based in Dallas, Texas. She is a pioneer within the relationship community, and she works daily to change the tone of the conversation about marriage and relationships around the world. Ashley has attracted an audience of over 170,000 followers and 8.5 million viewers. Her passion for creating high-quality content has brought campaign partnerships with brands such as WeTV, Cheerios, Walmart, JCPenney, Herbal Essences, Sephora, TLC, and Burlington, just to name a few. She has been featured on BBC News, Bravo, Good Morning Texas, and many other media platforms. As a leader, speaker, advocate, and catalyst for dating with purpose, Ashley is dedicated to social and spiritual uplift. She has shared as a lecturer and spiritual speaker to thousands of women in the United States and abroad. Ashley received her MBA degree from Texas Women's University College of Business and is currently CEO of the High Earning Housewife, which is a high-level entrepreneur program for women who are learning the tools needed to be CEO of their home and business. Okay, welcome.
Hello.
Everybody, welcome Ashley.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm so excited to share this evening.
Okay, thank you, Ashley, and I'm excited as well. Okay, next I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Dr. Lakeisha Simmons, affectionately known as Dr. Keisha, and she is an award-winning and highly sought-after women's empowerment speaker, workshop facilitator, and financial literacy spokesperson for Personal Capital. She is the founder of Brave Consulting, a woman's empowerment firm focused on goal setting, leadership, soft skills, and financial freedom. She touches thousands of women's lives through her platform, Achieve Her. She has appeared across all top media channels and outlets, including Good Morning America, Business Insider, and People Magazine, and People.com. for her woman's empowerment work and she saved over $750,000 in 4 years to retire from her position as a management information systems professor. She is the author of The Unlikely Achiever, Soft Skills Workbook, and author of Divorced, 7 Keys to Making It Through Your Parents' Divorce and Her Adolescent Son. She's a first-generation college student. She holds a bachelor's degree in business information systems from Tennessee State University, an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and a doctoral philosophy degree in management information systems from the University of Mississippi. She holds a Six Sigma Black Belt that was achieved at Caterpillar, Inc. Everyone, welcome to the stage, Dr. Lakeisha Simmons. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so as you can see, we have 2 very experienced and very successful women to lead this conversation on leading in a virtual world. As they talk you through their experiences, I want you to reflect on your experiences, your current experiences, and the experiences that you aspire to have in the career workforce. And just think about, the things that they are saying, and think about how you can propel yourself to the next level. We've all had experiences by now in the virtual world. As they get started on their talk, I want you to contemplate that by writing in the chat, what achievements have you had, or what aspirations do you have for yourself in this virtual environment? Just write that in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the stage over to Ashley and Dr. Lakeisha.
Yes. And so I'm so excited tonight to be talking about leadership in the virtual world, because when I think of leadership in the virtual world, there's so much opportunity to be had in a virtual environment. And I think it's really great that you and I are able to chat tonight, because we have 2 very different but similar trajectories. You being a previous professor and me being an entrepreneur in the virtual online space. I think it's going to be a great conversation. But to kick it off, I want to know, what are the theoretical perspectives available about leading in a virtual environment? And do you see any specific challenges that women are currently facing?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. I am so happy to be here. And yes, type in the chat any questions that you have. Being a former professor here, I'm going to talk a little bit about theory, but I promise to make it as exciting as I can. And Ashley and I, we are prepped and ready to really dig into some practical steps too, once I get past this part. So let's just talk a little bit about theory. So the first theory that I want to tell you about is called the great man theory. Isn't that something? This was an actual theory. It is. Very popular in the 19th century, but it basically said that it's an inherent quality to be a leadership. You're basically born with it or you're not. So you'll possess, let's say, intelligence, courage, confidence, and you're just born with that. But I think we all know with nurturing and coaching and mentorship, you can develop those qualities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another quality is the trait theory. This one just says that leadership can have certain qualities that tend to create better leaders than others. Let's say some leaders are excellent communicators. Have you ever known someone, Ashley, I'm sure you probably have met someone who's like, man, they can just say the exact right words and it just flows so eloquently. And those people tend to look like leaders, and they end up getting those leadership roles. But again, we know with proper coaching, soft skills training, mentoring, we can develop those traits as well.
Mm.
So I'll give you one more. Behavioral theory. So this one focuses on your environment, not your natural abilities, will form you into a leader. So what type of conditioning or what things are happening around that person that help them develop into a leader? And so we see a lot of that, right? You can take your environment and it can either really make you or break you. I grew up in the inner city. I had people who loved me, but we didn't have much money. So, but everyone around me worked. and they worked multiple jobs.
Mhm.
And so I learned what that looked like in terms of how my mother was a leader where she worked, and how my father was a leader in the Army, and how different people, even though they may not make the most money, they were really strong and they were confident and they could learn how to do anything. So environment can play a really big role in you becoming a leader.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I love what you said, because amongst everything that you just said, what I love is how everything can be cultivated, because sometimes leadership seems intimidating, but when you know that you can grow and you can actually cultivate those things to make you a leader that's worth following, I think is an amazing thing. So, it looks like Kelly Weaver says, I would like to learn how to network online and feel more comfortable speaking in a virtual setting. Well, just to give you a little tip right here, Kelly, the beautiful thing about speaking in a virtual setting is you don't see who you're speaking to. So right now, me and Dr. Keisha, we're in the comfort of our own home, which really adds to you being able to show up confidently online, but you don't have that same that you may not have that same anxiety as if you were speaking in a room of 500 people. So just knowing that you're just talking to your computer or your camera, what I always recommend is that when you're showing up to lead and to serve and speak online, simply act as if you're speaking to a friend. And if you just think, okay, I'm talking to one person, it really will help you with those nerves and calm that anxiety. But moving on, so Dr. Keisha, what has been your personal experience leading in a virtual world?
So we've all been here. I couldn't even believe it. I read something that said COVID-19, and I said, 19? Have we really been in this pandemic for 2 years? I couldn't believe it. 2022 is right around the corner, but we've all had to figure it out. And some of us have thrived and some of us have struggled, right? And we've all had to learn how to do it. So some of the experiences that I have been transitioning from being an in-person speaker and being able to really engage with my audience to really learning how to engage my audience through a camera. And believe it or not, there's a lot of similarities, but there are some things that are a little bit unique to being in this virtual environment, such as, number one, still dressing the part, right? You still have to dress the part where the camera can see you. Obviously, you also want to look engaged. You want to look excited. You want to show that you're there. And I always tell women who ask this question, you want to, put on almost your acting suit, right? You want to show, even if you're not feeling the best that day, if you've got a big interview or you have a large opportunity, you want to put your best foot forward for the time period that you have. The good thing is you won't usually be having to stand around and have a meal or network. You can kind of get into the virtual environment, show up, right? Show up, show that you're excited to be there. Focus on your body language, focus on being articulate. And that's what I've had to do. I've had to learn how to engage from a physical audience to now a virtual audience. But it's been fun. It's been fun. What about you, Ashley? What's your experience been?
Yeah. So honestly, my experience started about 8 years ago because I started leading virtually online through YouTube. So I started a YouTube channel about 8 years ago because I had a desire to. So let me kind of back up. So what I think is awesome about the virtual world is you don't need anyone's permission to show up and serve and lead. So about 8 years ago, I started a YouTube channel because at the time I was very passionate about relationships and dating. So I started a YouTube channel where I would interview couples, and I started a show called Dating with Purpose to really show people that great, healthy marriages do exist. And that turned in to me seeing the opportunities from an entrepreneurial perspective by seeing the needs of people. So I started to create courses helping people prepare for marriage. And then that transitioned into me helping create programs for women who also wanted to lead virtually and develop businesses online and have an audience online that they can serve and lead. So I create programs supporting them in doing that. So that's been my experience. So it started actually, really 90% of my business is online. It is connecting with people virtually. But what I think is really incredible is you're able to, as a leader in the virtual world, you're able to impact people from all over the world. So people that I've been able to connect with in South Africa and Indonesia, we've had students go through our programs from literally all over the world. And it's really just a testament to show, if you're someone who's listening and you desire to lead in some capacity, number one, you just want to get started. And number two, you don't have to have permission. And I think that's what's beautiful about the internet, about social media, is if you're an expert in an area, if you're passionate, you're going to attract people who are interested and engaged in what you have to offer. And I believe that your people's potential as a leader is a direct result of how they lead themselves. And if you're wanting to actually have impact and lead online in a virtual space, it first begins with self-leadership. And I love to just share on how important it is to be a leader that's worth following. And so, Dr. Keisha, when it comes to being a leader that's worth following, what is something that you do to show up as a representative of what you share, right? Because you talk a lot about finances, women's empowerment. Isn't it important to be living that if you're trying to lead people in that area?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because transparency is big. We all know social media, it looks so glamorous, right? Everybody looks like they're happy and they're doing well, and oh my goodness, they're doing so much better than me. And why can't I look like that? And why am I not doing X, Y, Z? But the reality is, for me, being a real leader is being honest and transparent and showing what I've been through. So yes, I was able to save $750,000 in 4 years, but guess what? The reason why was because I had gotten divorced. I was going through a divorce and I had nothing. I had nothing, and I was so financially insecure. I said, never again. I've got 2 babies. There's no way in the world I'm going to be a professor. I wasn't tenured at the time, and I don't have more than $5,000 cash, and I've got a little bit in retirement. I have to do better. Yeah. And so I worked hard. I saved. I figured it out. I studied. And so when everything came out that this is what I saved, I couldn't believe that people were excited about it, because I was just living my life. But I told my true, authentic story, and that resonated. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, would I be covered by People Magazine or Good Morning America, I would say, no way. I'm a professor. I teach Excel, right? You would think no. But once I got transparent, then I was able to truly share who I was. I was not just a professor who taught Excel. I was actually a mom. I was a friend, a daughter. I had more worth than just what I did. This is who I am. And so being transparent, don't be afraid to say, this is what I went through. Through all of that, my son wrote a book. Wow. So I'm the co-author, because he's obviously 10, or he's 11 now. But that's his book, Divorced, 7 Keys to Making It Through Your Parents' Divorce. That's a book he authored. We worked with the illustrator, and he said exactly how he wanted the pictures to look. So guess what? He's already embodying leadership skills. Yeah. He's taking initiative. He has a voice. He's not afraid to be transparent. And so that's something else that I want the audience to know. Don't be afraid to be transparent. What about for you, Ashley?
Yes. So yeah, no, well, first off, I think that's incredible that a 10-year-old authored a book. Like, that just says so much about him. That is really exciting. But no, I agree with the transparency piece. And I think that's what really attracts people to engage with leaders. And I, even as a graduate of TWU, oh yeah, this is a great question, Dazzling. Yeah, let's leave that one up. But even in a college environment, I still have relationships with professors that were transparent, that lived a life that I was like, wow, like you're really you've accomplished great things that I one day would like to emulate. And I think it's just them embodying a leader is incredible. But the question from Jasleen, I believe it said, if you guys don't mind putting it back up, it was something about, is it possible to be a leader being an introvert? What do you think about that, Dr. Keisha?
I am an introvert.
Same here.
Oh my gosh. Okay, good. I am an introvert. I'm telling you, when I get off this computer, I will be back in my fuzzy pajamas and finding, something to watch on TV in my bed under the cover, because I can be. So again, this is a leader is somewhat of a chameleon. You're still being honest and truthful in who you are, but at times you have to step up, because think about it. If Ashley and I were not here speaking to you to help encourage you and motivate you and tell you how great you are and that you can do it, if we weren't doing that because we're introverts, then look, we wouldn't be sharing our full potential. So even though we're introvert, we have to have confidence in ourselves enough to say, I have a duty to help other women. And I've got to pull these other women with me. They have to come with me. So even though I'm an introvert, I've got to take some time to be an extrovert. Right. And but always protect your self-care. I can't stress that enough. I take vacations by myself. I go to the movies by myself. I go out to eat by myself. I do things with myself because I love myself and I'm an introvert. But there are times that I need to step out of that shell because I have a duty to help other women. What about you, Ashley?
Yes, no. And I think if you're someone who's introverted and you're tuning in today about leading in a virtual world, that's the best type of leadership to be in. If you're wanting to lead online, because you're able to show up, lead and serve, and then kind of go back in your cocoon and restore your energy. So it's 100% possible. But again, it's having the ability to show up and really to show up and serve and say, I am very self-aware of myself. And I know that in order for me to be the best leader that I can be, I need that time to refuel and to recharge. So that's a great question, Jasleen. And yes, it is 100% possible. So another question that I wanted to talk about are, do you see any challenges for women who are wanting to lead in a virtual environment? Or opportunities as well.
Yeah. So there are both. There are challenges and opportunities. I think someone had a question. If you could put the question back up, that actually is a great segue into our next question. Could we put that question back up? Oh, no, the one before that. There we go. Do you feel that the virtual aspect takes away from anything you would normally receive in a live setting? Yes, yeah. I can think of some. I know Ashley can as well. One thing that in a live setting that you have that I don't know that people truly understand the power of is a handshake. Believe it or not, when you shake someone's hand, and I've studied a lot of body language. So when you shake someone's hand, if you can just hold the hand for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, don't be creepy with it, right? Don't hold it too long. But, don't just shake it and move on, but be intentional and use that eye contact. You actually make a real connection with the person. And relationship building in that physical sense is so important for your career, for your goals, for where you want to be in life. And so some of that does get lost over the virtual environment. For example, Ashley, right now, we can't see our audience. I can't look them in the eyes. I can't come over closer to where they're sitting and have that one-to-one communication, even if it's an audience. So that's definitely been a challenge for me. What have been some of the challenges for you, Ashley?
Yes, I mean, and that's a great point and a great question as well. But I think being in person, there's a different energy, being able to connect with people in person, also the connections that can be made. it's not comparable to a virtual environment.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges that I see is after, not after the pandemic, because we're still in the pandemic, but people are sometimes they get virtual out, right? Like it's a little over, like, people kind of got Zoom fatigue or live stream fatigue. They miss those in-person connections. And I think that is a challenge that arises in the virtual environment, but there is a way to create an environment where people look forward to showing up, because if there wasn't a way, then social media wouldn't be as popular as it is. All of that is virtual, and you see that there's billions of users that are addicted to their phones, addicted to those apps. So there is a way to connect people and get people engaged and interested, but you have to be very intentional as a leader. And that's one thing to really touch on, is the fact that as a leader in the virtual environment, you want to be very mindful of where people's attention is already. Because when you're showing up to speak to people, and you have to have communication skills that draw people in, and that's dynamic, or else people can get easily distracted by all of the other things that are happening virtually. So I think that's really important. But I did see another question that came after that. I think it was about.
Well, I wanted to ask, before we get to the next question, I want to hear, because you're really an expert in this area, what are some of the opportunities for those listening in this virtual environment? Because while, there's some cons to it, because we had to switch so quickly to it, but you've been in this game for 8 years. And so you're an expert here. Please give us some tips. Give me some tips on what are the opportunities for us that we should be capitalizing on.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And yeah, Maya, that's a really good point. She said she tends to feed off her staff, seeing that they understand. I can't feel that virtually. True. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a really good point. Ashley, I think some of the best leaders can be introverts. Yes. So as far as the opportunities available in a virtual environment, they really are endless. And I'll say we have changed my husband and I are both entrepreneurs in the virtual space. We both lead in the virtual space, and our legacy has been changed because of the opportunity of having a computer, a laptop, a phone, and some internet, right? And I say that because I feel like in order to be a world-class leader, you have to understand what leaders really do, and it's serve. And when you have the right heart and the right mindset that you're showing up online to serve others, and you're consistent at doing that, and you're leading yourself in a way that people actually want to follow you, you're going to gain some traction in whatever industry that you're in. And so for us, all we've done is lead with our heart, and we showed up consistently. And then we put a business plan to what we were doing. And we were able to quit our corporate jobs and focus full time on our virtual online businesses. And it's changed our generational legacy. We were able to pay off over $126,000 in debt in a little over 2.5 years. And similar to your background, Dr. Keisha, I wasn't raised in I was raised with very hard workers around me. My mom was a single mother of 4 girls. I've been working since the age of 14. And I thought that I had to be successful a certain way. But then when I got exposed to the virtual environment and being able to create businesses online and take the knowledge that I did receive from TWU, getting my business degree along with other training and communications and sales and marketing, I was like, wow, you can be successful in a virtual environment and have fun doing it.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. That's an inspiration to me. And I know so many others that are listening, just because we see so many influencers, but we don't really know the behind the scenes. So to hear how much debt you paid off, and you both quit your corporate jobs, but you used your college education in your own special way. You made your own lane. I love that. I love that story.
Yes.
We have another question here. As a young minority who is also a woman, how do you become a leader that is respected amongst the virtual world? That's a big one. I want to hear from Ashley on this one. How do you become a leader that is respected?
Yes. Okay. So again, I'm going to talk about self-leadership again,
Mm,
which is the ability to lead yourself. So before you
mm,
can lead anyone else, you first need to master leading yourself. And
mm,
how you become a respected leader is by doing the work when you're not in an environment virtually to lead. So it's the behind the scenes work per se. And
yes.
something that I love to tell, especially minority women, is to really watch their input. And so the definition of input is literally what you put in. And as a leader, if
Mm,
you're someone who wants to lead on a high level, you need to be consuming the right material, because whatever you consume is going to come out. So your inputs affect your outcomes. And so if you're someone who wants to lead, you should be reading the right books. You should be becoming an expert in your industry. You should be guarding with everything you have in you, with everything you have, to make sure you're consuming the right material. Because if you're someone who is leading themselves, you're consuming the right material, you're perfecting your craft, people are going to automatically want to follow you, because you're going to be like an overflowing stream of wisdom and
mhm,
knowledge in whatever industry
mhm.
you're in. And so how you become that is lead yourself and be very, very intentional about what you consume. And a lot of people have undesirable outcomes because of their input. So if you're inputting the wrong, it's almost like your body, right? So when you
Mm,
are, if you think of health and fitness, you're not going to create a strong body by
mm.
consuming carbs and candy all day.
True,
So in
true.
the same way, you're not going to become a phenomenal leader by consuming reality TV and trash media all day. So if you're someone who wants to be a world-class leader in the virtual space, you have to make sure you're consuming
Mhm.
things and guarding your input, because whatever you consume is going to affect what you pour out to the audience you're leading.
I love that. Wow. You're preaching tonight, Ashley. These are some gems.
Well,
I wish
thank
we could
you.
see the faces, because that is, and I've never heard it that way. That really struck a chord with me, to be honest. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's,
Well, I'm
yeah.
I'm glad. So, Dr. Keisha, we'll give this one to you. So, Erica
Okay.
says, as a Black woman, can you give advice on handling discrimination or microaggressions in the workplace?
Ooh, I have been there. I taught at a predominantly white university, and I would say I taught there for 9 years, and I did not have more than probably 20 Black students. It was not uncommon for all of my classes to be, not a person of color. And so I had a lot of microaggressions, and I dealt with a lot of that. And it's not always easy to deal with. So I would recommend, this is what I did, get a mentor within the organization that you're in, who is already maybe a few levels of leadership higher than you are. They can help you navigate those situations appropriately, because sometimes, the organization will have a process, a paperwork process, but that's not always the most helpful, right, for us. So you may need to know someone who knows someone that can really deal with the issue. Does that make sense? What I'm
Mm,
trying to say, that there's a formal process, and then okay, I'm going to go directly to this person that I trust. And one of my mentors was an older white man. And from the day I started at Belmont, he took me under his wing. He helped me through the tenure process. He would take me to lunch and say, this is how you navigate the dean. This is how you navigate this. So this is how and he really poured into me. And so when these situations came up, which it happened to me, It happened on our campus a lot, where we had different things that happened, and we had a lot of media attention around racism. And he would say, this is your chance to step up and be a leader and be part of the solution. Use your voice. And so I started the first, believe it or not, after all these years, we didn't have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee on the faculty senate at the faculty level. We didn't have one. And so with his encouragement, I was the first leader of that group for the university, at the university level. And so dealing with it is hurtful. It's wrong. It's painful, but try your best to use it as a teaching moment for others as well. And how can you be part of the solution? How can you use your voice and what you were uniquely gifted at to help move us forward?
Yes, that's really great. And that kind of leads us to another question. All right, let's see what this one is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yes.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is so true. Your social capital means more than anything. So Ashley has both, right? She has social proof because she has millions of YouTube followers and hundreds of thousands of people on Instagram. I don't know the exact numbers, but
yeah,
it's a lot.
That's a little, that's
hey,
reaching, but yes.
We'll be aspirational. How about that? I know you have millions of views at least. We know that, but we'll have millions of followers as well if we don't yet. So we'll be, because that's where, so she has a lot of social proof there, but also you want to have social capital with people who you don't even, that's kind of the bucket I fall in. So I have a lot of relationships that aren't on social media. I'm working on where Ashley is focusing more on the social external communications with YouTube and Instagram and all that. But I have a lot of relationships kind of behind the scenes at top organizations and different things of that nature. So it's not, it's definitely who you know. One way or another, you got to have those relationships.
Yes, no, that's great. And and let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So your social capital, I really love that term. You have relationships, in a lot of relationships outside of the virtual environment, which I'm sure gives you virtual opportunities because of those connections. And you said that you're an introverted person. How do you cultivate those relationships as an introvert?
So definitely you have to focus in on something that you said earlier, Ashley, is what you're putting into your brain. So you have to go and read books. Okay. You have to read. One of my favorite books is Crucial Conversations, and it teaches you all about negotiation and sales. And so whether you're an introvert or not, there really is a method to the madness. I'm sure Ashley could speak to this. There's a method to how you do these things. And then you have to just do them, right? The studies have been done. There's theories. There's practical that says this is how you do it. And then you just have to go do it. So one quick thing is when you're meeting someone new, you want to find something that you can quickly connect on. What's something that you have that's similar? And you may have to dig a little bit to find it, but once you do, then you can use that to build a connection. So Ashley did this really well when we first got on our call today. She said, oh yeah, I saw you on Anthony O'Neill, and my husband and I were just on Anthony O'Neill. Do you live in Nashville? Boom, instant connection. And we were like best friends. We were like sisters. And we just were talking about everything because then we had a connection point. So you can ask someone, where are you originally from? What university? You're digging to try to find what is the similarity that you have that you can connect on. And then that person, they can't forget you because they'll always say, oh yeah, I remember her from XYZ. So that's one of the ways. That's one example.
That's a really great practical example. And if you guys listening have any questions, go ahead and let us know. Okay, Kelly says, what has been the biggest hurdle in leading and growing in a virtual space? That's a good question. Do you want to start that one off, Dr. Keisha? You're
the powerhouse in this virtual space at this point. I really want to hear Just
Well,
from
okay,
you
let me
first.
think. One of the biggest hurdles and challenges that I've had leading in a virtual space is not comparing myself to other women
Mm,
leaders who are in the similar space. And so something that I do in a practical example to
mhm,
help just guard my mindset to not um, get discouraged. Like I can
mhm,
see people doing great things or similar things and it'll start off me feeling like, oh yes, like that's awesome. But then it can kind of feel like, well, am I doing enough or can I be doing more? And that is not a good space, mental space to
mm,
be in as a leader. And so what I do is it goes back to guarding my input, which I explained a little bit earlier, is making sure that I am really consuming edifying content that inspires me as a leader versus makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. Because
mhm.
if you're in a place where you feel like you're not doing enough or you need to be doing more, it switches you, it turns off that showing up to serve to
Mhm.
showing up to compete. And I never want to be in a competitive
Mm,
nature. And so it's easy to do that in a virtual environment on social media with so many people doing similar things.
mhm,
But that's one of the biggest challenges that I face. But I limit my time consuming and
mm.
I make sure that I'm producing more than I'm consuming in a virtual
I
environment.
love that. I love that. Showing up to serve. Did everybody get that? I hope y'all taking notes. Y'all see Dr. Keisha's over here taking notes.
Same. I'm taking
Show
notes
up,
too.
show up to serve. Okay. Focus on what you're producing to help others. That's been my biggest blessing.
Mm,
When I'm focused on helping others, Oprah, see, Oprah actually said that something similar, Ashley. She said that she's been so widely successful with money because not for one moment ever was it ever about money.
mm.
Anything that she's ever done, it's never been about money. And that's just amazing. It's always been about helping people and telling other people's stories.
Wow.
Isn't that something? That's
Yeah,
powerful.
it is. I love that. I love that. Can we get the question back on? Okay, so Jessica says, how do you maintain those connections network if you do not see those people often or in a virtual world? Great question, Dr.
Mm.
Keisha.
Yeah, this is all about being intentional. So if you don't have a personal plan, personal intention plan, you got to create one. And Ashley spoke on this earlier about where you want to be and just really manifesting those things and knowing, being aspirational. So same there. You have to be intentional. I'm in a sorority and I have to be intentional about reaching out to my sisters to say, hey, let's go to lunch, or
Mm,
hey, let's get on a phone call, or once a month having it in my planner. I have an achiever planner that I created, and the unlikely achiever, and I have all my sheets and I'll write things down for this month. I need to meet with X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C. Whoever I haven't met with in a while, I haven't talked to in a while, I call it phone a friend. You'll see that on the planner. There's a little section that says phone a friend because who haven't I talked to in a while? I have to be intentional about that.
yeah.
So, the planner, we both have resources. Ashley has so many resources online. You can go to her website as well. I have a soft skills book. More of these leadership characteristics are in the book and the planner as well. So we are just excited to help you thrive and do more and be all that you want to be. So we're excited to help in any way.
Yes. And the last thing that I'll say to that, because I know Dr. Horn is here, is I know many of you listening are students, and in the academic environment, your IQ, which is intelligence quotient, is very important. And that is very important. But also when you get to the real world or outside of college and you're leading in a virtual environment or you're leading in the workplace, your CQ is really what is amongst the most important. And so CQ is defined as a connectivity quotient. And that measures your ability to connect with people. And some of the most successful people are the ones who are intentional with following up with someone. They are the ones who are building relationships with people, because as people, we were created to connect and to collaborate with one another. And so, yes, you want to be focused on the academic side and increasing your intelligence and your knowledge, but you want to be even more intentional about building relationships, connecting with people in a virtual environment and in real life, because that's where your success really lies.
Yes. Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you for an outstanding conversation. I was taking notes. I mean, I know Dr. Keisha said she was taking notes, but I was taking notes as well. And, you know, what I picked up on and what I learned tonight about leading in a virtual world is that it takes much of what it takes in the real world, in the face-to-face world. You know, it's just that, you know, we have to use these, put everything that we're doing in the face-to-face world and add these tools to it and just do it, right? So some of the things that I heard you all mention were that we needed mentors. We still need mentors, right? We still need advocates. We need confidants, people who will tell us about ourselves and how we're showing up in the real world, people who we trust. You can't listen to everybody. Okay. We still need to network and get out there and meet new people, but not only meet new people, we need to connect, actually make a connection, as these ladies pointed out. You know, when you're meeting somebody, figure out how, you know, what's the quickest way, or what do you have in common? And then another thing that these ladies mentioned that, you know, I love is education.
Yeah.
You know, both of these ladies are, you know, everything that they're doing is underpinned by solid educational foundation. And they are just building on those theories, ideas, concepts, and frameworks that they learn in their in the educational arena, and they are adding to it and creating new highways, creating their own lanes, new bridges, new highways to new towns. And then brand is always going to be important. So whether you're in a virtual world or whether you are face-to-face, your brand is just so important. It's what you have. It's what creates that social capital for you.
Yeah.
And then I love what Ashley said about watching what you're consuming, watching what you're putting in, because what's going to come out, whether it's on a virtual stage or else, it's going to be what you've consumed. So if you're not current on what's going on in the world, in our society, if you're not knowledgeable about yourself through personal leadership development, and also about your effect on other people, your influence on other people, you know, all of those things affect how you show up in a virtual world and in a face-to-face world. So read. And then another thing that was mentioned was this comparison trap. You know, Ashley has 170,000 followers and 8.5 million viewers. And Dr. Keisha has written books and workbooks, and she's taking her experience, her life experiences, and teaching other people, knowing that other people may have some of the same experiences and need her help. She's further along. But both of these women are doing this in their own ways. And I'm sure that there's a temptation to tap into what other people are doing. But I truly believe that the reason why both of these women are so successful is that they have avoided the comparison trap. And they are doing what they know to do and serving as a leader in the best way that they know how. And they happen to be doing it in a virtual world, which is just outstanding. So I really appreciate your talk tonight. I really appreciate the gems that you gave us, all of the knowledge. I think it helps for people to see women like you who are on the move and who are figuring it out. You're figuring it out from where you are and you're moving forward. So I think that is just excellent. And do you all have anything else to say about your topic?
I'll just say one last thing that's kind of on my heart to share is that don't be afraid to reach out to someone that you don't know who you feel would be a great mentor. So if there's someone that you resonate with when you see them or you hear them speak, or something that they are doing that you want to be doing, don't ever be afraid to reach out to them and say, I see what you're doing. I respect it. I'm learning from it. I'm growing a lot. Here are some of my goals. I would value, a connection on LinkedIn. And then maybe, who knows, you can ask for a Zoom call if you have something specific that you want to talk about, or if you want to just communicate through email. Don't be afraid. I have reached out to some people who were where I wanted to be, and I thought, this isn't going to happen, but I'm going to try it anyway. And I was surprised. I got the assistant for a few weeks, but I kept being persistent, and I finally got directly to that person. And Oprah, if you're listening, I still want to meet with you, and I'm still trying to find you and how I can get directly to you. So don't ever give up on your dreams or who you want to meet or who you want to emulate. Don't be afraid to reach out to them.
Dr. Keisha, I love it. I have been following you in your plea to reach Oprah. And you know what? I hope you get there. I really do. Because when you meet her, I need you to remember that you know me and I like her too, okay? I love her. Okay, I have a question in the audience. It says, can you recommend good books? They said, Dr. Simmons mentioned Crucial Conversations already, but can you all recommend any more good books?
Yes, I would recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's by Dale Carnegie. It's a phenomenal book when it comes to communication and building that connectivity quotient that I talked about. It's a great book.
Okay. While we're waiting, Maureen has said, she says she has never known a potential mentor to decline help. And I absolutely agree, Maureen.
Wow.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any more books? I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. There's a book called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. This book, get it. Robert Cialdini, I think is the name, but it's Influence. It's blue. It has red, on the top, but it's blue and orange. That book teaches you so much about how to persuade others to accept your ideas, which is so important for women, right? Sometimes our ideas can get overlooked even when they're really great ideas. So just sometimes how to craft your message, how to, put it in a way where people will want to accept it. That's a good one. That's a good book.
Okay. And another question that our audience has, they want to know, would you recommend Toastmasters to help with leadership development skills?
Absolutely. Yeah, because being a great leader means that you need to be a great communicator. And Toastmasters, it's a free resource. I believe they have a level that's free that'll get you really comfortable communicating, getting that feedback. I 100% recommend it.
I recommend it too. I recommend, if it's something that you think best fits your style of learning, then check it out. I love Toastmasters. For me, it was recording myself, knocked out, and it's still knocking out a bunch of kinks. But Toastmasters is an environment to where you can have an audience, and that audience is also trying to improve. So it's like, we're all uplifting each other to learn the same thing about how to present ourselves and how to speak publicly. Maureen recommends Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Dr. Lambert recommends Influence, Science and Practice book by Robert Caldini, I think it is. Some of these recommendations are written in the chat.
Awesome. And I saw someone ask if they should do audiobooks or physical books. I mean, I'm a mom of 2 little ones, so audiobooks, they're my best friend.
Okay. Someone else, someone asked, at the end of this session, are we allowed to potentially get the speaker's LinkedIns? Hey, Ashley told you she has 170,000 followers. Of course, of course. I think, what is your name on LinkedIn, or are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, it's Ashley T. Brown, but even if you search Ashley Empowers, I should come up.
Okay, and Dr. Keisha is out there. That's where I met her, is on LinkedIn. So
see, you got to be on LinkedIn. You never know. Oprah's on LinkedIn.
Right. And we're going to connect with her.
We are. We are.
Okay, so ladies, I really appreciate this talk, and the audience, the thank yous are piling up. Like, the audience really responded well to the advice that you gave. They were really engaged the whole time about what you were saying. So I really appreciate this talk. And I want to let the audience know that I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that we had as far as entering, and actually some people had problems hearing and seeing. Excuse us, please be patient as we overcome this learning curve with this new platform that we're operating on. But we hope that that you'll come back next week and see the session that we have next week on imposter syndrome. And after imposter syndrome, then we'll have a session the following week on a few good women, leadership and diversity in the C-suite. So we'll actually have some women who are in the C-suite of corporations. And then our last session for this series will be a talk with the new, recently appointed Black female person who was appointed to the board of directors of Centerpoint Energy, which is major, which is, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how to get more women into the upper echelons of organizations. So if you stay tuned to this series, you will see many, many more tips and many more success stories on your journey to get to the C-suite and the board and wherever else you want to be, a CEO of your own business, or whatever it is in your future. Hopefully this series will help if you continue to tune into it weekly. With that being said, that is all we have for tonight. Our session next week is on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.